Hello and welcome. I am Lavo, a developer for the Hearts of Iron 4 mod, Operation Overhaul, and today I'm here to show you how us at that project actually make icons for research page. So if you go into the any of the aircraft tabs, you'll see a lot of nations have new icons and so on and so forth. This particular method that I'm going to show you is how we do that. And it's a fairly simple method that anyone can do as long as they have Photoshop, because that is a requirement. Unfortunately, you can use one of our guys uses a version of CS4, and I personally use CC. Both work the same way, and this method works for both of them. And of course, if you're using Photoshop, you also have to have the DDS export tool, because all of these images are saved as in DDS format. With that said, let's move on to the actual thing. Now, to get these work, we find profiled pictures of the unit. As you can see on screen, I have a nice 2D image here with of a block MBU 1050. This is going to be the French Carrier Fighter 3. That was found on the internet. So first you have to do things. You have to get rid of the background. In this case, there's a nice black background you see here. Most images will be white when you find them on the internet. So we use Magic Wand tool, set your tolerance to 15, point sample, anti-aliasing, and contiguous are set on, and you delete. Click, and now if we disable the background, you see, just the image itself. Boom. And that's exactly what we want. This image actually originally was completely transparent. That's why you're seeing me delete layer 1. I just wanted to show you an example of removing the backside. And now that sometimes you're going to have to do a bit more clearing, because some images, especially JPEG sources, are quite dirty and they have pixelation in various places, so you can just go and manually clean those and so on and so forth. And then you go to image rotation horizontal, because all images in Hearts of Iron 4 are facing towards the right, but as most images on the internet are facing towards the left, you can see things like this text here being completely borked and screwed up. For things like the ones on the tail, which just won't be visible when you shrink, it's not really a problem. But for some things like the F, the 1, 2, 3, 5, and all those, you're going to want to really switch those around. So, go to your number in question, use block select, and then you go to edit, transform, flip horizontal. Sometimes this will be sometimes this will be imperfect, or as you saw me right there, I forgot a couple of pixel layers there. But usually when you shrink it down, it won't be that big of a deal, because details like that just aren't really visible when you shrink it down. Oh yeah, this one is a bit more complex. Actually, not entirely sure how I'm going to do this one. Flip image horizontal. Oh, whoops. My bad, wrong one. You go transform again. Horizontal. And as you can see, I yet again forgot a single pixel layer on top when I did this flip. Because your main thing here isn't to be entirely perfect. And did that again. Your main thing isn't to look entirely perfect, but just not visibly off, so to speak. There's that one. These two are really a pain in the rear. So an easy way to do that, just kill it, fill it with something. I'm going to see if content aware does. There you go. Boom. Now we go to this number 5, this nice number 5 here. And give it the same thing. I wish I would stop doing that. Alright, now that that's done, we have a not as, numbers now no longer clearly badly off. And now it's almost time to shrink it, but we have to do one important thing. It's not much of a big deal for this particular image because it's very clean, as you can see. But most images, especially JPEGs, will have the outer boundary be very, very pixelated. So usually you're going to want to do this, which is do stroke 1 pixel. Your color should particularly be dark gray. I personally use 29, 29, 29. And yeah, do that. That'll fix it. This one actually messes with the cockpit, but whatever. It's not actually necessary for this image, for this craft, because it's in such good quality, but let's, for the purposes, say that we did it right. Boom. Now you want to make sure that that stroke that you did stays when you shrink down the image. So do that. Select your background layer. Just select part of it that's behind your unit. Layer via copy. Merge it down. Control E by default on the, and boom. Now your stroke data has been saved, so to speak, by the thing, and will stay when you shrink down the image. Personally, I don't want to use it for this particular craft, so that's why I went and undid it. But normally you will want that. Usually a value 1 is enough. Sometimes you're going to want to use 2, at a maximum 3, depending on the quality of the image. Now you shrink it down. So we're going to start going to around 100 pixels, see how that works. And then you're going to really want to compare this units, like compare what you've done, see how it works with respect to units already in game, because you want to maintain similar scaling. For that, I've opened up the 3rd German fighter, which is the TA-152. Then I slap my image in and see, is it too big, is it too small, and see how it is. As you can see, it's not bad. Maybe it could be a bit bigger, but the main thing is the cockpit window over here, where my cursor is, or actually you might not be able to see the cursor. Around there is comparable. So it should be alright. Boom, good enough. Now we go back to where we were before. Zoom in a bit. And we see that the image, of course, is very much right up against the model, which, while in many other cases that wouldn't be a problem, in this particular one, it is. Because when we do the alpha channel in a moment, we want to have some extra space. So do that, I go and add in around 6 pixels worth of padding, both sides. There you go, some space. And for now we're good. Now, to make the alpha channel, we once again go into the layer styles. Now we go to color overlay, which should be set blend mode normal, opacity 100%, and the color should be pure whites. This code is FFFF, as you can see here. And then after that we go to outer glow. Outer glow settings are, as you can see here, again, color should be pure whites. Blend mode is screen, opacity 75%, no noise, size is set to 3 pixels, and range is set to 50% with the regular diagonal contour. Click OK. Ooh, woohoo! It's almost done. Then you merge down that layer to the background. Make a copy of it. Whatever. Now you go back, click undo a bunch of times to before we set the layer. Duplicate one of the channels. You name it Alpha 1, because that is the code for the alpha channel. and paste in what we just made earlier. And now, as you can see, it covers the mesh for the most part. You can see it actually does a partial transparency for our cockpit, which we actually don't want, because then it's going to be a bit too invisible. So we can manually tweak that without too much difficulty by selecting the pixels in question and then filling them with 100% white. Sometimes you're going to also want to modify the upper shadow slightly to compensate. And one more. Oops, should be filled. There we go. Now let's zoom back out and see how this looks. As you can see, it's almost perfect. The cockpit continues to be a bit of a pain, actually. Now then, let's now it's pretty much done, and we need to save it. Now we go to Save As, and this is where the DDS format was mentioned earlier. Save as DDS. Call it whatever. For example, Fray CV Fighter 3. So that's what we're using it for. Save. Now go to the drop down, select 8888 ARGB 32 BP unsigned, have MIPMAPs on, and then click Save. And that's just about it, other than actually editing in the GFX entry and so on and so forth, but that's beyond really the scope of this one. And now give me a second and we'll see how this looks in game. Alright, now we're in, and let's just look at how this looks in game. If all goes well, we should have a nice beautiful image that looks decent in the tech tree in Paradox's typical style. And as we see, here it is. The cockpit can use a bit of work, but otherwise, as you can see, looks quite nice in game in the typical style of Paradox images. And yeah, I hope that this tutorial will be useful for you in making icons for Hearts of Iron 4. And it's Lavo signing off.